Waiting for it to show up. Hey, everybody, I'm the Ranting Monkey. With me today are Scribe and Satsu2cents. Say hi, guys.
Hi, guys.
For those of you guys who are unfamiliar with Scribe and Satsu, I'm going to let them introduce themselves real quick. We'll go with Satsu first. Tell us a little bit about your channel.
Your typical anti-SJW shit talker. I talk about pretty much whatever I want on my channel, but as of late, it's been a lot of anti-SJW stuff. I like to give a different perspective on the certain topics that everybody talks about, just to try to make things interesting, and it's all about having a conversation.
Okay, and Scribe, tell people about you.
Let's see. I kind of default to the social justice uber progressive kind of material, but generally, if I come across something that grates on my logic nerves, I'll just kind of go off on that. I try to focus on authority figures, people who are positioning themselves as like educators or experts on things that kind of go haywire. So I end up probably too much so relying on TEDx for some material. I'm trying to wean myself off of that. And I try to focus more on asking questions of the things being said than trying to prove that I know more, because I don't usually. I just usually find flaws in their reasoning.
Yeah. One of the reasons I like talking to you, and one of the things that I really liked about your channel when I first found it was you said in a topic that I don't know this, so I'm not going to focus on that. I'm just going to focus on this part over here, and it was the two girls talking about capitalism, but
yes,
confused by communism.
Yeah, I'm no economics expert, and so when I come up across subject matter that I'm not qualified to speak on to any length, all I can do is sort of say, well, what little I understand tells me this, so this is why this doesn't make any sense. Because and we were talking about this before the stream went live. It's sort of like if you're in a conversation where subjects are being discussed that you have no idea about, it's not a bad thing to say I don't know. Right. Some people seem to think that, and they try to fill in the space with a bunch of nonsense, but it's okay to admit that you're not an expert at everything.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, guys, there's no real set topic for tonight. We're going to just talk about a few things that we thought were interesting from the week, and I guess the elephant in the room is the inauguration and protest from it. What about
protest?
Yeah.
Was there any specific protest that either of you just like jumped out as you as really stupid?
The one that got the shooting over in Seattle, I think it was.
I still haven't got to read about that.
Yeah, so it was at a Milo. So Milo was doing a speech last night, and I remember you and I were talking last night in that test stream, like, oh boy, we have a lot to talk about, and who knows what we'll have to talk about in 24 hours. The news about the shooting came out like an hour or something after we got off the air. And so according to the local news, and I'll just read the little blurb here, a protest at the University of Washington over a controversial speaker turned ugly Friday night. Seattle police report that a 32-year-old man had been shot in the stomach and had to be removed from the crowd. A person later turned himself into the UW police in connection with the shooting. He has been described as a person of interest and is being questioned. Witnesses told Como News that the victim was trying to keep the peace at the height of tensions during the protests. No motive has been reported as of yet. And as far as I know, for all the other craziness that's happened around Milo's speeches, this is the first one that I know of where a shooting took place.
Yeah, usually it's just people screaming, yelling, blocking entrances.
Yeah.
But if you keep an eye on that, it's really been escalating. The last one that was canceled, they went through and broke all the windows at the school. Mm-hmm. What is it with these people and breaking windows?
Because we people look for the easiest things to destroy.
Windows don't fight back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They make a lot of noise too. They like noise.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't getting that passionate. I'm very passionate about politics, but how do you shoot someone over it?
Well, again, we don't know what the motive was. We don't know the situation. So it could have been related to the protests. There might have been some kind of altercation. We don't know. So just the fact that it happened, someone brought a gun to a protest. I don't know what the gun laws are in Washington State, but I mean, it's on a college campus. I think it's illegal to have a firearm on a college campus. most places, but I don't know.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, it just struck me as like, well, this is the most outlandish thing to happen. Though I know that Milo's speeches always attract controversy, just and beyond out of proportion controversy.
Somebody getting shot just makes my example look silly.
Oh, what was yours?
For me, it was the girls who chained themselves up in the little square.
Yeah, the slaves.
Slaves didn't get to unlock themselves, and these girls are sitting there in really nice clothes, and like, you have no idea how nice you have it nicer than I do.
Yeah.
I don't have the time to go to a protest and chain myself up.
I thought that was pretty amusing.
Oh, it was so stupid. And then I saw a sign on, I forget who linked it on Twitter, but it said something to the effect from the Women's March today of tax their razors if you're going to tax our tampons, like razors aren't taxed.
I saw that. Oh my God. Yeah.
Man, I actually did a video on the pink tax a little while ago, and it was just like, some of the things were just really funny. And at the end of it, like, I had one burning question that just killed me, because the main theme of it was like, women pay more than men for the same product. And they were pushing this narrative by having a man and a woman try the same products. And they're like, they're exactly the same. There's literally nothing different. And then I stopped for a second and I'm like, I could debunk this whole thing about the prices and why they're different. But the question that keeps plaguing me is, if they're exactly the same, then why are you so fucking stupid that you keep buying the more expensive one?
Right.
Like, that is the part I can't get past.
Now, the thing is that they're not exactly the same. If you look at them, they're made of different materials. They have a different design. They contain different chemical compounds or different amounts thereof. You know, when you hear like, Secret's pH balanced for a woman, that's because it's a different combination of stuff than it is for men. So they're not exactly the same. They serve the same purpose. This is true.
Yeah, to a certain degree.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to say I'm not paying for the drill bit, I'm just paying for the hole, then yes, you're getting the same result effectively, but you're not paying for the same item. So.
Exactly. And like, the razor was a really good one too. That was the one that was the easiest to debunk. I'm like, dudes shave their faces. That razor was created scientifically for one purpose, to shave your face. Have you ever bought a male razor and tried to shave your body? If you're a female, no. Why? Because they don't bend and flex, and they don't have the fucking little soap on the end that makes it smooth so you don't get cut. Like, that shit is designed for the female form. They make it to do that because you shave more than your face. Like, this is basic shit.
Yeah, and a lot of science, a lot of man hours, a lot of development, a lot of testing goes into some things more than others. I mean, it's a dumb argument. And
not only that, I mean, women are generally more likely to buy products high end. If I go in to buy shampoo, I will spend 99 cents for a bottle of shampoo and just wash my hair with it. I don't care if it makes it softer or stronger. I just want something that's going to clean my hair. Where women are much more likely to buy something if it's botanical or environmentally safe, and there's so much more to it than just a guy's razor costs more than a female razor.
Yeah, and these are the sort of like convenient mental omissions we see so often with like the wage gap and things like the pink tax. And I'm reading the CNN thing about the protests today, and they're marching for women's rights. Like, okay, which ones?
Yeah.
I mean, now I understand that there are all credit where credit is due. There are a lot of initiatives in some states that have been shutting down abortion clinics or Planned Parenthood type things, and there is a real need for those things in many communities. And when you shut them down or you set the laws in such a way that abortion clinics require admitting privileges at major hospitals, which they won't grant because abortion clinics aren't considered real hospitals, etc., you're essentially making abortion illegal through legalities. That I can understand being against those things, but in the grand scheme, yeah.
Well, like with Trump, when it comes to abortion, everybody thought he wants to punish women for abortion. If you watch the actual thing, they asked him if it was made illegal, what do you think should happen to women? And in that case, yeah, you would have to have some punishment. Otherwise, there's no reason to make it illegal. So he was answering a hypothetical.
Right.
And they turned that into, he's going to take away abortion.
Right.
Well, see, the part that got me was like about the taxes when they were talking about they want like abortions to be covered by taxes. And I'm like, you can't push a narrative, my body, my choice, and then say that other people should pay for it.
Right.
You can't be like, you have no say in what I do with my body, but I'm going to need you to make sure you cover it for me. Like, no, that's not how that works.
That's the whole problem with feminism right now, as I see it, is that they claim they want to be equal. They're strong, independent women, but they still need to be taken care of.
Well,
if I want birth control, yeah. I still need to be taken care of, but I'm perfect. I can do everything you can do if you let me.
That speech, did you guys see that full Emma Watson speech, the he for she thing?
Oh yeah,
I couldn't watch it all.
You mean the original?
Yeah,
it was so cringy.
Yeah. Yes, it was.
Oh, dude, like I was just like, she does not realize right now that she is literally saying women need men's help and we need to reach out to them so men can do this for us because we can't do it on our own. I'm like, that is the most wholesome feminist message I've ever heard.
Yeah, and her delivery was so. I mean, first and foremost, whenever I see an actor or an actress giving a message on a stage, I can't help but say to myself, how do I know they're not acting? And secondly, the way she delivered that message was in this sort of halting, quavery voice, almost on the verge of like tears or something. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe that's just stage fright. But wait, I'm talking about a professional actress here. I mean, I suppose there's a difference between being on a stage and in front of a camera, depending on your experience. But you're not sounding like an independent woman, even though I'm looking at a multi-millionaire.
Right. Yeah. Who's so oppressed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why people listen to actors. And I said this in one of my videos. Actors get famous literally by letting somebody else speak and think for them, which is great. And there's some very smart ones, and there's a lot of really, really dumb ones.
I think that the credibility of actors is similar to YouTube personalities in the sense that someone watching my videos, let's say, they might get a notion of what kind of person I am through the subject matter I go after, the words I say, how I articulate myself. And I mean, what do we do as human beings when we don't have answers for something? We fill it in with notions that make sense to us. If I see an actor and I like an actor, what I don't know about them, either intellectually or otherwise, I'll just assume based on the only information I've got, which is the lines that were written for them, that I've now imparted on their own capabilities. So if I'm seeing Mark Ruffalo, who's also Bruce Banner on TV, maybe somehow, even though I'm thinking of him in a fictional light, I'll still think of him as a brilliant scientist.
Well, many, many years ago when Bill Maher still had Politically Incorrect.
Great show.
What's his name? Ricky Schroeder?
Yes.
He was on there defending gun rights. And this is when it really hit home for me. He was on the same side I am. I'm very pro-gun. Don't own one myself, but I love shooting them and have no problem with them being legal. And as he spoke, you could just see there was no thought behind what he was saying. He was just literally repeating things he heard. And when he'd get challenged on it, because he hadn't thought about it, he couldn't answer anything. And he just made my side look retarded. And I'd rather people like that just not speak.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't mind when people have like, because there are some celebrities, it's not a lot, but some who have like genuine viewpoints on something, and you ask them about it and they'll give you a coherent answer where you're like, oh, okay, so you can think for yourself. But even then, you take that with a grain of salt, because that is another human. Yes, they are a rich human, they are influential human, but that's just another person with an opinion. Their opinion is just as valid as that random person you was arguing with on Facebook. I take it the same way. I'm like, I either agree or disagree, but it's not like that person is famous, so it must be more valid. Like that shit. People who think that way are wastes of space.
In that same regard, I have people. My video I did on Whitney Faye, whatever the hell her name is, the big woman who did a TEDx talk about how it's okay to be fat because she has PCOS. I recently got somebody who commented that I really shouldn't be talking about it unless I'm a doctor or a psychologist or something like that. And I'm like, she's not a doctor or psychologist, and she's talking about it. You have no problem with her spreading stupid information. Mine all comes from actual research. PCOS can make it harder to lose weight. It can make it easier to gain weight, but it doesn't make you, in her case, she gained 100 pounds in 6 months. There is no disease short of a giant growing tumor that causes that.
Yeah, it reminds me of a story my dad told me. He used to work for, I'll just say, super duper big company, and at one point he met the CEO, and he told me this story, and I was like, "Oh wow, what was it like meeting him?" And he said, he just kind of shrugged and said, "He's a guy with a job, just like me."
Yeah.
Yeah, and that really sort of set the tone for me. For that's like, if I see an actor, if I see someone else, it's like, yeah, they're on camera, they know how to handle themselves or something, or even if they're a big business person, maybe they've got a rap down where they come across. But at the end of the day, they've got a limited time on this planet. They're just as frail in their emotions or their mentalities or their opinions as I am. There's nothing that sets them above, save for perhaps the actions they take towards and for other people, and how they manage their own ego. Outside of that, but that's no different than a lot of people too. So it's hard not to look at people who are super successful and not think to yourself, "Wow, they must have some kind of magic touch." But then you hear all these stories about these people that there was this movie. There's a movie I think everybody should see, and that's just my opinion. But it's a documentary called "The Kid Stays in the Picture," and it's about Robert Evans. And as the story goes, he was just some accountant guy, and he jumped in a pool at one end in Hollywood, came out the pool on the other side, and was a movie star immediately because an actress saw him and thought he'd be great in her movie, and that's how his career started. Like some people just have dumb luck like that, but that's a rare instance. Most people are just normal, but some people get luckier than others.
Yeah, I've never got to meet an actual celebrity. But where I used to work, I was kind of a middle manager, and lots of people under me would want to go talk to management, and they're like, I don't know how to talk to them. Like, they're just people. And if you watch them talk to them, they almost, it really hit home for me when I had to sit down with somebody and talk with them, and we just had a really nice chat. And afterwards they're like, "I didn't realize you'd be so easy to talk to." I'm like, I'm just a person. I mean, yeah, I could technically get you fired, but I'm just a person. You can talk to me like you would talk to anyone else.
Yeah, I think the notion of power and authority causes people to fill in gaps that aren't there about the people that they're looking at. Like I said before, it's in the absence of any other information. If you're in a position that I'm not, then you must know something more than I do, or you must have some kind of alpha male shark attitude that got you there, because obviously I'm not there. So,
there was another funny instance, because I have a work persona. I don't swear. Very professional. But somebody had irritated me, and under my breath, I said something I shouldn't have close to one of my subordinates. I dropped several F-bombs in a row. Fuck, 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 fuck. And she just kind of looked at me. She goes, "I didn't know you swore." And yeah, when I told my friends this, they laughed so hard they couldn't breathe. We see people in a certain light, and we tend to think of them in that certain light. But when it comes to actors and their opinion on politics, I have no problem with them having it. But if you're going to share it, say something that shows me you've actually thought about it. He for she was one of the dumbest things I've ever heard of.
Yeah, it was. I was laughing most of the time. I'm like, does she even know what she's saying? Did anybody like confirm this script? Like, I mean, I feel like maybe she wrote it, but she was just like, just gotta put some shit down. This sounds like a good story to tell. And I'm like, this is the most counterproductive talk ever. I'm like, nobody is, but everybody was like, yeah, what she said made sense. Probably, I think. I'm like, oh God, right. What the fuck is going on here? And she was at the UN too, which like it just added insult to injury, because I'm like, now we got multicultural idiocy. Everybody's like, oh yes, she's so inspirational. I'm like, man, she's a wizard.
Well, and the other thing you got to always remember, and I struggle with this myself sometimes, unless I've seen someone in an interview outside of their work. Everything you know about an actor, someone wrote for them.
Yeah.
You know, everything that they've ever said that was of any meaning to you outside, again, of an interview or something else, someone else came up with and gave them to read. It's not that they are as wise as the characters they're playing. They're just playing a character, and it doesn't mean anything. The question is, what do they say when they're off script? And so if Emma Watson wrote that herself, I'll extend the benefit of the doubt that she did. That is her thought process, and that's as real as you're going to get, short of the drama of standing on a stage at the UN. I've seen her in interviews otherwise, and again, and similarly, somebody told me one time, never date an actress because you never know when they're not acting.
Yeah, and even sometimes in those interviews, they have talking points already set out. It's
Right.
not like they're always even thinking for themselves.
Yeah.
I like to watch. I can't remember the name of the one, but I like to watch interviews with actors where they're taken on by real people who aren't. They're not promoting a movie. They're just there to talk.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen like Bill Maher do them. Bill Maher, I like in a lot of ways, and in a lot of his politics really piss me off. But he is an incredibly smart guy.
Yes.
That can't be denied. Same with Jon Stewart. Me and him, he's much more liberal than I'll ever be, but he is so incredibly smart in it. I like to just listen to him talk.
Yeah. I like Inside the Actor's Studio, if we're talking about just like interviewing actors, because usually they catch them off guard with stuff and it's not very planned. As far as individual actors I like to listen to, Stephen Fry, I could listen to that guy all day because he's actually a genius. I mean, set aside everything else about what he does as an actor, he actually has something to say and he knows what he's talking about half the time. And it's just, a lot of British actors are like that. I'm really surprised that I don't like hearing American actors more usually. I'm struggling to think of one off the top of my head that causes me to go like, oh yeah, I like listening to that guy just to listen to him. But
I like to listen to Morgan Freeman.
Yeah.
Yeah, Morgan Freeman cracks me up.
He is funny as hell in his thing, and I've seen him do gotchas to the reporter.
Yeah.
And that just cracks me up.
Yeah, he is a smart, pragmatic guy. I appreciate that.
Satsu, did you see the speech Donald gave at the inauguration?
Yeah, I watched the whole thing.
What'd you think of it?
It was interesting. I was well, see, I expected him to do the whole obligatory. It's an honor to be up here, and I want to thank the people who paved the way for me, and thank my opponent. And I feel like, and a couple people said they felt that way too, but other people it's like, oh, it's business as usual. I felt like he walked up there with two middle fingers out and gave that whole speech. That's what it looked like to me. It looked like he was like, fuck all of y'all, especially on the political side, because all those people he was shaking hands with, he was talking about them. When he was talking about incompetency and politics and the people who are all talking shit, he was shaking hands with those people up there who he was talking about. So it seemed like he was just like, yeah, I'm talking about you. Yeah. I was entertained. I was like, holy shit, he's really going through with this.
I like the speech. The reason I asked you specifically is me and Scribe had talked about it before, so I already knew his opinion on it, or at least part of your opinion. But you're right. He absolutely did. I expected the platitudes too. And he was basically up there going, these guys behind me, fuck all of them. They did this. We're going to fix it.
Yeah. His message was, although kind of collectivist, it was, it's me, like me and the people, not me, the government and the people, which is what everybody, like every other president said. He was like, it's me and you guys. I'm talking to you. We are going to solve this problem. Fuck these guys. They don't do shit. And I'm just like, ouch. And I mean, and granted, like I was looking like, I mean, clearly he's full of shit. I mean, I don't know. This man has been around for a while. He's done a whole bunch of shit. He's got a lot of things going for him. And I'm like, this dude is on a high right now. He's been in movies. This dude has been on wrestling. He's done so many things in his life. I feel like the presidency for him is just like, all right, I've done all this shit. Last thing before I die, president. That's why I feel like this is like for him.
Well, I think that's how the presidency should be. If you're a fan of Thomas Jefferson at all, when he listed his accomplishments, he did not list president as one of them. To him, it wasn't that big of a deal. And our presidents really shouldn't be that big of a deal. That's not how it was designed. And I know that, you know, you can almost argue it's an inevitable progression to that point, but we've gotten to the point where we basically hero worship these guys. And I'm not sure what kind of president Trump will be, but I kind of want somebody there who doesn't need that to be his life legacy. That it's just something else he's doing because he thinks he might be good at it.
Which is pretty much why I think he's there in the first place. He's like, I could do this shit, man.
Right.
And he was just watching like all this shit going on. And he's like, these people don't know what they're doing. I need to get in there and show them how it's done. And he fucking won somehow.
Okay. Scribe, I've heard your opinion of the speech. Why don't you share it with everyone else? What do you think?
I think that, well, I mean, if you watch the events or the ceremony prior to his speech, there was Chuck Schumer made a speech that was not so much a speech as it was a scolding of Donald Trump even before he stepped up to the plate. And I thought that Trump's speech himself was kind of I won, and the people put me here, and that's how it's going to be, which is absolutely true. And I think what you said just a minute ago about the motivation behind becoming president, so many presidents seem to take this air of having the intention of leaving footprints in the sands of time. And that kind of maybe well-meaning but overdone hubris has always bugged me. It's like, you know, you're here to see to the prosperity and the safety of the country, not feed your own ego. And I think that's one of the major failings of Hillary's campaign, amongst other things, is that her campaign slogan itself, I'm with her. She's the focus. She's the center of this. It's not about what she's going to do. It's about just getting behind the personality, getting behind the individual. Whereas Trump's message, make America great again, wasn't about him. And I remember reading something in the last day or so where someone counted up how many times Obama said I or me or something else in his acceptance speech the first time, and how many times Trump said anything like that or mentioned himself in his speech, and it was no contest. It's like Trump did it like 4 times or something, whereas Obama did it like 70. Yeah. Now, I didn't vote in the presidential. I didn't vote for either one of them. I didn't want either one to be president, but if I had a gun held to my head, I was like, well, between the two of them, I'd rather have the one that didn't cheat to get to where they were. And that was, you know, Hillary and her whole stuff. The thing that worries me, and this is both sort of a thing that I admire after a fashion, but something that also concerns me on a pragmatic level. His first news conference prior to taking the inauguration, he, you know, obviously he's not a polished politician. He's not some kind of, you know, experienced diplomat or anything. At the same time, he name dropped some pretty allied countries of ours, some pretty friendly countries, in the same sentence as countries that are far more antagonistic to us. I'm thinking specifically of Japan. He mentioned
Japan,
in the same breath as Russia and China. And while again, I can appreciate his rough edges and not being one of the establishment, I am, let's say, concerned that his undiplomatic attitude is going to force the more experienced politicians to take him seriously, because he has no one to check him. This isn't like some kind of lower level official saying something off the cuff. This is the guy at the top. This is the person that could make decisions that would adversely or otherwise affect entire national dialogues. And so,
and I understand what you're saying there, but in that respect, there are times within our foreign policy where, because somebody is our friend, we won't call them out. And,
true.
With Japan, I think he went way over the line with that.
Right.
But we do have trade deficits pretty much with everybody.
Yes.
And that does hurt us. And it's been dragging us down. So I really wish he hadn't, and I hadn't mentioned Japan specifically, and I hope he learns a little bit more diplomacy. But I am kind of refreshed to see a president who's not afraid to call people out.
No, like I say, it is both something I admire and something that I'm cautious about, because there is a need. I mean, the one silver, as the campaign went on, the one silver lining I said to myself as things were going on, I said, well, if Trump wins, whatever else might happen, because God knows what he's going to do, but whatever else might happen, just his election will be the catalyst for change, far more than Obama. And if it doesn't, then the Republicans and the Democrats are going to learn nothing, and they will suffer the consequences. But like the other day, they were talking about how Trump still hasn't revealed his or produced his tax records. He's the people are wanted, and he's like, oh, something. And it's kind of like, I'm thinking to myself, well, he's not required to. This is just sort of a courtesy the candidates have done for a long time. So if you think it's necessary, pass a law. I'm pretty sure some Fourth Amendment people will come after you for that, but at the same time, put your money where your mouth is. If you think something needs to change to make this disaster not happen again, then change things. I'm more than happy to have the election process completely overhauled to allow far better people than this to end up in the White House. Yeah. But it's gonna require these politicians to actually take action. The problem is, any actions they take that would undermine or hamstring a future Trump, they themselves will have to come up against. And so I'm really curious to see who's positioning themselves now for 2020, because the campaign to 2020 started yesterday.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and anybody who's going with Trump or against Trump very vocally is probably setting themselves up for a run. And what they pass or what they do in response to Trump's presidency will really show their integrity, as far as, how much are they against Trump, or how much are they against the process that put him there.
Well, yeah, I have no problem if I like the Electoral College, but if the nation got together and agreed we're just going to a one man, one vote system, I could get on board with that. But the people who whined about it afterwards, it's the system we had set up. And for me, that's not even the biggest problem with our election process. Our election process, the biggest problem is it's always going to come down to two people with the way it is right now. It's going to be a Democrat or a Republican. There's no room for a libertarian or a green. They pop up on the radar now and then. But the system is so stacked against a third party, it's never going to happen. And to me, that is a much bigger problem than somebody who won California with 0% of the vote counted not winning the presidency.
I think the bigger problem is the campaign finance laws. I think the unlimited, Citizens United, the amount of, $1 billion spent on Hillary's campaign. Now, admittedly, she lost, so it was $1 billion wasted. But who could compete with that up until the point of the election? Who could get that kind of backing? This is why I think we should try to move towards a, what was it? There was a word for it. It's like it's like everybody gets $5, and that's all that people can get from the people. They can't finance otherwise. Somebody else in the chat will probably know what the name of the process is, but where everybody who runs for president gets some equal amount of time on network television, and it's just standardized. You get this much, and that's it. The only donations you can take are up to X number of 2 digits from any one citizen, and everything else is supplemented by the government if you meet certain requirements. And there's no flash, no fireworks, just, there are public services that are provided candidates running for president or high office, and the amount of money you can actually take from people is zippity doo-dah. Everything else is supplemented,
That would make things interesting, because to just level the playing field and be like, the more resource, because it's not just about who can get to the most places and say the right things. It's just like, you got to use your finances correctly. Like, it's problem solving, and you got to figure out where to go. What time do you have? What to do with the time that you have? The false attacks and shit are, I think, a big thing too. Just like these ads that get put out that blatantly say absolutely false things.
Right.
That shit needs to be put in a check too.
It would put the onus less on how much you're spending and how strong of a message can you get out there. I mean,
Exactly.
if everybody gets an hour a month or something on network television to just say whatever they want and everything else, then that is where you've got to convince the people. And that's really where it should be. It should be, here's what I plan to do. Here's what's wrong. Here's how I plan to fix it. And I've got a limited amount of time to do it in. So I'm going to get out every little point I can. And if I'm going to get any other attention, it's going to be either hometown papers or specifically where I go to. Because I'm getting sick and tired of, and I said this years and years ago when Kerry and Bush ran, we may not have a monarchy in this country, but if you're a billionaire, you're an American king. And it seems as though the only people that can run are either kings or those who have been made kings by their backers. And I do not like that at all.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And I'm really interested to see what happens with the Democrats, because right now they don't have an heir apparent.
No, they don't.
I can't think of anybody, young or old, who I can see running in 2020 with any real shot.
I'm curious to see who in the Republican Party, because it's usually tradition that you don't run against a sitting president within your own party. I am sure someone's going to run against Trump from the Republican side, or they'll split off into the independents or something if they're not going to get any backing from the GOP, because I don't know if the GOP will fund someone who's running against their sitting president.
Well, that might depend on how he does, though.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. If he stays pretty right, then he won't have much of a problem there.
Eve a la Renaissance in the chat says Chelsea. Now, Chelsea is an interesting story because there's been talk of them aligning Chelsea to run for a Senate position. I forget where exactly. I think it's in New York. And there was an article somewhere, or at least someone quoted in the Clinton campaign after the loss, that said something to the effect, and again, I'm remembering from the past, so I could be mistaken, but I remember specifically the phrase used was to continue the Clinton brand.
Oh dear God.
And that's someone else will have to look it up. I forget. I think it was someone within the Clinton campaign that made that particular comment. But even if it was just someone making a commentary, that's exactly what it is. The Clinton brand. I mean, it's, you got Bill, you got Hillary, you got the heir apparent to that family dynasty is Chelsea. She's she's their only hope for carrying the name forward, I guess. But no, she's not going to be ready to run for president for at least another 10 years at minimum. I mean, there's after her mother's defeat, they're going to have to give a lot of time in between before they try to make another shot at it. And the other thing I really hated, the other thing that kind of turned me off to Clinton, was the sense of dynasty. I don't want another Bush. I don't want another Clinton. I don't want to see Malia run in 20 years or something. We're not supposed to have this changing of hands from the top families in the country. I mean, again, monarchy, but not a monarchy.
I wouldn't mind it if they had something to say other than "my name is Clinton," because no matter what you think of Hillary Clinton, everything about her persona right now is because she was married to Bill.
Yeah.
She would not be known if he was never president.
Well, she would be, but she would only be known for her shortcomings, which is what her entire political career is full of.
Well, before he became president, I mean, nobody expected him to win when he did, because he's a governor from a small town or small state. He had lots of controversy coming in already, and he was the one that had suddenly made being first lady really important, because Hillary wanted that.
Mm-hmm.
And then as soon as he left the presidency, he went off and did some stuff, but you don't see him much in the news. And considering how young he was at the time, I would have expected to see more of that. But all of it switched to Hillary. And that led to her Senate campaign, her first loss, becoming Secretary of State, and then this run. And all of that is based on the fact that she married Bill. None of it was built on her.
Yeah, I never really understood. The thing that always bugged me, and this is, or maybe not bugged me, but always was a question mark in my head, and this is long before she ran for Senate and all that, was why she didn't divorce him. I always wondered when I was growing up, and after he got out of the presidency and everything, I thought, oh, she's as soon as they're out of the White House, she's going to dump him. That doesn't make any sense. Why would you stay with that guy? But
the short answer is watch House of Cards.
Well, no, that's the thing. As time went on, and as she went and got her Senate and all this other stuff, I was like, okay, here's a person that is willing to stay married to a man who has obviously betrayed her, publicly humiliated her, etc., because of the name, because of the attachment. It's no longer about their. And this, again, this is the sense I got, because the only way my mind could wrap around it is that maybe she forgave him, but the only reason that she stuck around is because there was too much built up and too much of a opportunity for her to get the brass ring with the name attached. Because if she had a divorce from him, that'd probably cause more problems for her politically moving down the line than anything else, because then he'd be off gallivanting by himself.
I'm going to disagree there. I think she made a mistake by not divorcing him, because that would have made her the strong, independent woman who didn't put up with that man's bullshit.
Oh yeah, no, I don't disagree that would have been a better choice. I'm just saying that I figured her motivation had to be that she was gambling on the name. I think if she had divorced him, amicably, not made a big deal out of it, because if you make a big deal out of it, then it becomes a whole tabloid kind of thing.
Political stunt at that point.
Yeah, and then she wouldn't have the baggage of Bill. I mean, although at the same time, Bill, for all his faults, he oversaw one of the most prosperous eras in the American economy. Now, I don't credit him with that, but that still carries a lot of weight.
See, I get into a lot of problems with my more right-leaning friends, because as president, Bill Clinton did a pretty good job. And the reason he did a good job is not because he's some great politician or great leader. It's because he is a great politician. And he was so worried about his legacy. Yes. He knew he could not get anything passed without working with the Republican Congress that he basically got elected by letting Hillary be part of the government. She wanted to do Hillary Care. This is stuff a lot of people just don't seem to want to remember.
Right.
But Hillary Care was so unpopular that when the Republicans took control of the House and Senate in 1994, it was the first time they'd had control of the House in more than 40 years, almost 50 years. It was 48. And if he wanted any kind of legacy, he had to work with her.
Right. Yeah, he was a pragmatist, and I can appreciate that a lot. Not like somebody who's completely opposition or adversarial towards the other side. Because you got, I mean, and this is hopefully a lesson Trump will learn sooner or later, is that even if you have the House and the Senate on your side, politically party-wise, that does not mean you're going to get everything done that you want to. You still have to negotiate. There's still going to be a lot of horse trading. And in a couple of years, if the wind shifts the other way and a bunch of Democrats get the seats they need, well, you better be ready to negotiate. And depending on how you see Trump's ability to be a businessman, he may or may not already have that information in his head. So,
okay, just a moment, chat. I am kind of keeping up with you guys, but when me and Scribe start talking, I end up focusing on that. I am so sorry. I don't mean to be neglecting you guys.
Oh, well, let's give chat a little while now. Let's give them some attention.
They sound like my live streams when I'm on my second channel. I'll be playing the game and they're like, dude, what the fuck?
Should we give chat question time now?
Guys, do you have any questions?
They forgive you. See?
Aww. I have I not insulting any of you guys' audience. I have the best audience on YouTube, and I mean that sincerely. Somebody mentioned in one of my recent videos how surprised they were at my views to subscriber ratio. And it's actually something I've noticed about my channel. I keep between 50 and 75% viewer to subscriber ratio, which is really high.
Those are really good numbers, because the consensus or the general number is about 10 to 20%.
And I credit it all to, I love talking to my subscribers. And if you go back to my older videos when I could still keep up, I answered every damn comment I got, everyone, because I love doing it. And I really do. I just have great subscribers.
Yeah, they're awesome. They received me pretty well when I came to your channel, because I know whenever I've done collabs before, a lot of the comments are, who the fuck is this person? Why aren't you pumping out videos? I don't care if you have a life. Just keep making videos. And I'm just like, Jesus Christ, people.
Yeah, I get that to a point. I mean, if if I don't know why somebody's gone for a while and I go to their channel and I'm a fan and they're not there for a month and people I don't like are there, I get a little annoyed by it.
Well, yeah, of course, if it's that long too, especially. But I'm like, I uploaded a video 6 days in a row, and the seventh, you know, I had a bad cough, so here you go. And they're like, "Fuck that shit." I'm like,
It's nice to have that loyalty, though.
Mm-hmm. I just keep having. I'm not. I don't monetize my videos, so I don't have any sort of incentive to put stuff out very frequently. But I just this new hobby of mine, I just have this compulsion. Like, I need to do something creative. I need to create today. Let's try to find something. And if I don't find something to comment on, it's kind of like, well, you know, nothing caught my nerves. And even though I've watched like 3 TEDx talks now and just about killed myself, I guess I'll just wait. And a day goes by and then something comes up and I'm like, oh, God damn it. Okay. And I got to say something.
yeah.
So, if you don't mind my asking, what made you start making videos, Scribe?
It's, well, this actually ties into the question you asked me before the stream started a few hours ago. You said, you know, one thing I'm going to ask you is, how would you describe yourself to other people? And in sort of the broad strokes, I am a stunted child. I was far more adult and reserved in my growing up than I should have been, probably. And so in my quote unquote later years, I've had to learn to loosen up and take risks, whereas I wasn't very risk-takey when I was younger. And ever since Gamergate, ever since Internet Aristocrat, sort of told me these tales of things that seemed so fringy and then became mainstream, like fat acceptance and white privilege and headmates and all this stuff. I've watched these guys like Sargon. I just thought, and before then I've been watching Hitchens and Sam Harris, and these guys just like completely deconstruct these zealots in such a concise, efficient manner. And I've always been a very logical person, and I really admired those guys. And when I saw Sargon and these guys sort of take on these topics of what was going on right now, not things like the Bible and stuff that have been around forever, but like Gamergate and the media and all that, I thought, gosh, you know, I've seen some of this stuff too. I just never really had a way to articulate it. And so I always thought, oh, maybe, I mean, I could do a video, but I thought, no, you know, there's nothing I have to say that isn't being said. And the only reason I guess I thought that was, by the time I found out about something, it was through one of these guys, and they would just rip it apart so epically, that I thought, oh, there's nothing I could add. And then one day I'm on minds.com, and randomly Irate Bear, who at the time had like 250 subs or something like that, he just puts this open call out. He says, anybody want to come on a stream with me? And I thought, I've never been on a stream before. Sure. And then I started talking to him, and after talking to him for 10 minutes, I thought, well, this idiot can do it, I can do it. and so then I thought, well, okay, so how am I going to do this that makes me feel like I'm not just a tag along, not just a fanboy? And so I thought, okay, well, I'll only look for things that I've never seen before. I don't want to sort of like retread rough road or a trodden road. So every time that I look for something on YouTube or I'm looking for subject matter, I always look for something that was posted in the last 24 hours. You know, something fresh, something I haven't seen, that whatever my discriminations or biases are in myself, they'll be fresh. They won't have been touched by someone else's opinion. And so I can just sort of wing it from there on.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it.
And ever since, it's just been sort of like, you know, I used to have a creative outlet. I used to be a LARPer. I know. If you know what LARPing is. And I did that for 10 years in one group. And then social dramas drove me out of there for several reasons. And so through that group, I did a lot of writing. I did impromptu acting. I did a lot of creative stuff. And then that just sort of dried up. And so I've found my new creative outlet doing this. And, you know, I'm thankful for every subscriber I get and all the attention and everything. I just hope that I'm offering something interesting, because 9 times out of 10 I don't even like to hear my own voice. So
now, Satsu,
that's pretty interesting.
I didn't realize you'd been doing this so long. You said before we started you've been at this for 2 years. What made you start?
Oh man, yeah, I got in with the whole Anita Sarkeesian was like the first thing that kind of set me off when I first seen those. Yeah, the first time I seen one of those videos where she was just feminist frequency, and she was just talking, and the more she spoke, the more I was just like, okay, I'm getting my finances together. How much money I got in my bank account? I need to buy a mic. I'm like, oh no, this can't happen. And then like for me, because gaming is what I do. And initially when I started YouTube, because technically this channel is 2 years old, but I've been on YouTube for about 3 because I had a gaming channel that failed epically. But gaming is just like a thing that I've been doing for so long. It's like, well, yeah, clearly if I'm gonna have a channel, it's gonna be gaming. But growing up with the stigma behind being a gamer and everybody's like, making fun of you and talking shit about you, and then getting to this point where like it's now mainstream and everybody wants to like jump on the bandwagon, and then you got feminists chiming in, and they're building up this perception of who we are and what we do and why we do it. And I'm like, this bitch don't know what the fuck she talking about. So I'm like, I need to jump on this train. And, that's how it kind of started. And the shift was insane because I was doing gaming and talking about gaming news, and people were like, did you hear what this chick said? And I'm like, I'm going to talk about it. And then I stuck. It just stuck. And my audience slowly came from that. So that's kind of how I got into it.
I need to address chat again real quick. There's a slight delay in my chat, guys. So when we asked you if you had questions, we didn't start getting them for a couple of minutes, so we moved on to other stuff. And as I said, we just start chatting and get lost. So I do apologize. I wasn't meaning to be an ass there. Do you guys have any thoughts on the whole Onision matter? Have you guys been following it?
The only information I have on Onision are videos other people make critiquing him. Really, I've never really watched him.
Fortunately, I have.
Yeah, I don't know, and this is something that I fear saying what I'm going to say, because it might come across as being critical of people that I like quite a bit. But Onision and Markov and all these other sort of individual personalities people have been having drama with. At a certain point, and it's not a very long point, I don't find it productive. I don't know. I mean, I can understand having a debate with someone who's on the opposite side of an issue from you, and that can be productive for the audience, if for no one else. The war of personalities, I just can't get into it. I can't see there's a little bit of entertainment value in seeing your, superheroes and supervillains fight each other on the internet a little bit. But after a while, just get kind of like, well, is there something else we could be talking about?
Yeah. I mean, I guess YouTube just kind of is that kind of beast, because if you notice, like the most popular thing on television is drama. That is that is the thing that gets watched pretty much more than everything, almost universally. So it's just like, oh, what the fuck is going on with this person? Did you hear what happened with that person? Here's my thoughts on this situation that has nothing to do with me. And it just, humans are like that. And YouTube, I heard somebody talking about it before, how YouTube is slowly becoming more and more like television. Like,
yes.
And the higher end YouTube stars, I guess if you want to call them that, are being treated and kind of hailed as celebrities, so to speak, as opposed to just a person who's sitting at home on their computer.
Right.
So we're making this transition, and a lot of people have been talking about it. And it's not unusual to me. I was like, yeah, this is bound to happen.
Well, it's different than television in the sense that there's far more interactivity that you can have with someone on here than you could have 20 years ago on a TV show. The other thing too is that I've, just like we were talking about earlier, there's the president of the company. He's just a guy with a job. Having made almost like 70 videos or something, I don't even know. I look at other people YouTube videos, and I just think to myself, they're effectively not doing anything different than I'm doing. I mean, they may have better production values or a different sense of humor or anything else, but ultimately they're just someone doing their thing, just like I am. They might be making money at it, but it doesn't change what they're doing and how they're doing it.
For me, I love watching the drama. I don't even lie about it. when Leafy and Keem were having their thing. I watched every bit of it that I could.
Yeah, guilty pleasure, I
But
admit.
yeah, exactly. But with this one, I find it a little bit different because one, he puts himself out there as a feminist, and he's got so many people who listen to him like he's some kind of god. And the stuff that's going on with him and his wife and their girlfriend at the moment, this Billy girl, if you watch his responses and him talking about it, he is a controlling, manipulative. If this was 30 years ago, they would be making TV movies about this guy.
Oh yeah. You have no idea if you've delved deep into his videos and some of the stuff that's been going on. It's some psychological shit. It's crazy, and I'm like, he is actually manipulating people on an almost criminal level, and it's scary.
Yeah, and that's the only reason why. If somebody had asked about any other drama, we probably wouldn't even have talked about it. But to me, what he is doing right now is so harmful and dangerous to the people watching. Because this is the kind of person feminists should be warning against. This guy is
not being that well versed into it, and so I'll act as the straight man here.
Sure.
So would you say, I know a little bit about what he's about, but would you say he's doing anything that is, let's start off at the top. Is he doing anything illegal, do you think?
No, I can't say he's doing anything illegal. Definitely creepy, but not. I can't say he's done anything illegal.
Well, okay. I mean, there was talk about something he was doing that was questionably illegal. Where, yeah, but it wasn't really like nobody really got to the bottom of that whole thing where he had like he had girls of pretty much any age send him pictures of their bodies, and he would critique them and give them advice on, you know, how they should, what they should do to make themselves look better or feel better, or at least that's what the narrative is. I didn't look too much into it because I'm like, I don't even want to go down this rabbit hole.
Yeah, what he had a forum, he had a forum set up where girls could send in their pictures, and there was no age restriction on it. And a lot of the pictures came in with them in very skimpy clothing, either just their underwear or a really small bathing suit. And his defense for that was, well, when you go to the beach, that's what girls are wearing. Like, yeah, but I don't go to the beach to see that. I go for the sand and the surf. The girls just happen to be there. This is specifically set up for people to send that to you. But
now, do you think that it is as cynical as simply, this is what gets me hits on my YouTube channel and makes me money?
I don't think it is at this point anymore. I think when he was dressing as a banana and fucking his driveway, I think that was just for hits. I think now we are just seeing what a weird sociopath he is.
Okay, because I oftentimes now when I see someone doing something completely outlandish on YouTube or being at the center of some drama or something, I always have to put an ear towards motivation. You know, as weird as this is or something else, could it be that behind the camera and in the spaces that I can't see when the YouTube thing isn't running, that this is all just, you know, their business model? You know, and not to say that Onision is just like this completely straight-laced nice guy and that he's just doing this stuff as a performance art or something. But I don't know where the line would be for him between cynical greed and actually being a complete nut job.
If you look at somebody like Angry MGTOW and how he grew his channel, it is obviously a market strategy. He spammed video after video, all of them long.
Yes.
Everything he could do to hit the algorithm.
Yes. Dark side Phil.
Yeah. If you look at what Onision does, he is dragging personal information to completely just humiliate this girl that he and his wife broke up with. You don't do that for clicks. I mean, I'm sure it's in his mind, but there's no way that that's just for clicks. That's him taking his sociopathic bullshit and monetizing it, yes, but I don't think he's doing it for that reason. I think that's just the consequence there.
Here's the question then. If it's not, let's just take the money aspect out of it. Isn't the amount of attention, good or bad, feeding him?
Oh, absolutely.
It absolutely is. He said it. He admitted it. He literally said that all the hate that I get, all the drama that I get, he was like, not really I love it, but he was like, keep it coming. If there's drama about me, let me know. Keep watching my videos. I don't care about a dislike ratio. He was like, all the shit you people talk about me brings me views. So, you know, and I can understand it from that perspective, but like when you look at like, so he was sharing some personal text messages that were sent between him and another person, him and the girl in question. And he thrives off humiliation tactics, like, and this is a manipulation tactic that a lot of, you know, sociopaths use, where he was telling the girl, like, as her punishment for disobeying him in any given way, to do shit like get a tattoo on her body saying that she's a liar, and chaining herself in his basement, and doing shit like that. It was just like some really crazy, and this was off the, you know, this was a conversation that they had before the shit hit the fan, and he shared it because he got pissed. So this is him off the camera. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure. But isn't he the monster the audience wants?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So how, and of course he's not unique in this, because I mean we've seen this all over the place, but it's obviously a flaw that is being exploited in sort of our human condition. How do you solve the problem of a system now with the internet and YouTube in specific that can feed and propagate people like this into celebrity, and more importantly, make other people think, especially younger kids, that this is the pathway to success and attention?
Well, there's nothing you can really do to stop it preemptively. The only thing you can do is when you see it, call it out. And it's not going to catch everybody. It's not going to save everybody. But if just one person who absolutely loves that fucking weirdo listens to my voice and goes, oh, wait, then I consider it a win.
How would you recommend someone, by what method should they call him out? Because there's, oh, you're a fucking creep, and then there's, I mean, so how would you recommend, if someone wanted to combat this, like they're honestly seeing this as a problem, how would you advise the opposition to function?
In this case, so many of the quote unquote shitlords, we use a lot of humor in what we do, and there's a place for that in this. There's definitely jokes to be made, but what really needs to happen is it needs to be explained that this is not just something funny. This is not just this isn't 50 Shades of Grey. This is a real guy who thinks it's okay to punish somebody with a tattoo, which is basically branding, or chaining them in his fucking basement. Calling that stuff out. I mean, yeah, point to what a weirdo he is, that's fine. But these specific points need to be highlighted and connected to what they really are, his sociopathic controlling behavior. And like I said, it's not going to reach everybody, but I think that would be the most effective way to do it.
Satsu?
Well, I mean, I agree with that, because it's kind of the only way. Because like you said, if there's no definitive answer of whether or not he's doing anything illegal, you do have a case of an impressionable person who has influence, manipulating people who are easily manipulated. So it's like just the outreach of putting your voice out there and letting people know, like, this is manipulation. This is the stuff you should be looking out for. The fact that it reaches anybody, it's not enough. It doesn't necessarily solve the problem, because I know that was the question, like, how do you solve it? But it helps, you know what I mean? And in a way that we can help. That's because that's the way that we can.
Yeah, because I think back to, and this is years and years and years and years ago, Charles Barkley, I think it was in a interview. And for those of you who don't know who Charles Barkley is, because it's been a long time, he's a basketball player, really very good one. He was on the Bulls, wasn't he? If I'm not mistaken.
No.
Anyway,
who did he play for?
Was he the LA? I can't remember. Anyway, he was asked at one point, do you think you should be a role model for kids? That kind of thing.
Oh,
and I think he answered something to the effect of, no, I shouldn't be, or whatever else, or I'm just a guy playing basketball. Well, but that was all leading to my question. It's like, okay, so if do you think? Sorry.
The Suns is who Barkley plays.
Suns, that's right. Okay. So do you think that, just as an example, Satsu. If you had a sizable audience, or even if you don't, do you think of yourself, or do you think that you should position yourself as a role model for others in counter to people like Onision or things like that?
I mean, not really. Well, I guess it depends on the intent of the channel, because I know some channels set out to do that. My channel wasn't really to do that. Like, honestly, outside of just combating, just the rhetoric that was being put out about gamers that was just not true. Even though I initially went in there to be like, this person is lying. Don't listen to what this person says, because Anita had a following of just oblivious people who know nothing about gamers. Like, oh, really? Is that how they are? And I'm like, no, that's not true. So I guess you can say that in a sense, but my channel is to expand my own mind. And I do that by talking to other people and starting conversations with others. So I don't think of myself as like like it's my responsibility to go out and make sure that I'm protecting people from people like him. But if I see it happening, I'm going to call it out. And it's just one of those things.
With that, I think a lot of things that there've been a few comments that I've gotten where people are like, how come you're not covering this? We can't possibly cover everything. I cover things that, one, I find interesting, two, that I think other people will find interesting, and three, that I really actually care about. For me, it's not a matter of being necessarily even the counterweight that I may be to, say, feminism. It's more of just being honest about what I think and showing my thought process. And as funny as this may sound, it's as much to challenge other people as it is to challenge myself. One of the reasons I love my comments is because I do get people in there who go, you're wrong, and we'll have a nice discussion about it. And it's also why I watch both of you. I love the channels who do the shitlord stuff. I laugh my ass off. But you guys are, I don't want to say you're not funny, because you both are funny, but that's not like your main focus. Like Scribe, you are an overthinker, which is why I love you, because I get how your brain thinks. We might not come to the same conclusion, but I'm like, oh, I see how he got there. It makes sense to me.
Yeah, if I and I've said this in another stream before, but if I have a overall intent in what I do, I've always had a very logical process. I've never had, for many, many years, I didn't have really a way of articulating how I got from point A to point B. I just sort of had a natural inclination. When I started listening to specifically Keith Olbermann, when he started doing his commentaries way back when the Bush administration, and then Hitchens, listening to these guys sort of work their way through an issue, even if I didn't agree with them on everything, but just seeing how their minds work and being able to articulate it and break it down and make it digestible. I so appreciated their ability to awaken in me the sort of internalized courage, I guess, to stop, really listen to what someone's saying, and then think about it beyond just taking it at face value. There are a lot of, if you watch, it's very subtle, but if you watch a lot of Hitchens debates with the religious folk, there's a lot of points at which Hitchens could have made a comeback to whatever the person said, and he doesn't. And for a long time, I thought, why is he leaving it open? And then after a while, I thought, at least, and this is my conclusion, he was like, he said his bit already. He's already sort of made this point before. Now he's just trusting the audience that they'll get it, because he's done the work for them. And let the audience make up their own mind. So if I have one thing that I hope to do or inspire, is not to convince somebody that I'm right per se, but just to say, this process of just listening to what someone has said, comparing it to what they've said before, and really asking questions, you can do this too, whether you come to my conclusion or something else. That's really what sort of opened my eyes to be able to be a bit more critical in my thinking.
One of the things that drives me nuts about some of the more bombastic anti-feminist, anti-SJW channels is that there's some who answer every point made in a video. I mean, literally to the point of somebody says hi and they'll jump on how they said hi, which is fine. That's your channel, do your thing. But for me, I like to go over the points that I find most damaging, most annoying. I don't need to address everything they said. That's why I link videos. I know some people don't like when people do that to a response, but I do that so that people can go watch it and they can go through the whole thing.
Yes.
But I don't want to go point by point unless every point deserves an answer, in my opinion. And you were speaking about how Oberman and Hitchens, and how in the respect that you like them. I've mentioned before that Undoomed and Bearing were definitely inspirations for me getting started. I have a rather harsh nature, and that made me realize I have a place here on YouTube. But one of my biggest inspirations I've never talked about is actually the Vlog Brothers, who are fairly liberal, but I enjoy watching them think. You can see it as they're going, explaining how they got to where they are. And even though I don't necessarily agree with their opinions, I enjoy seeing how they got there because it makes me question what I think.
Yeah, it's the process. It's not necessarily where you get to it, but just seeing the process. And even in that, you can, if you see someone go to the effort of drawing the map from point A to point B, if you can find, at least as far as your perspective, a flaw in how they got there, at least they showed you the component parts of the machine they're using. Because otherwise people just sort of like, oh, this is the way things are, and that's it. No, at least someone is willing to open up the panel, so to speak, and show all the wires and the guts and say, here's what I made. This is how it works. And I'm confident enough to show how I got there, but I'm also at least a little skeptical enough of my own genius that I'm willing to expose it to critique.
Yeah.
See, that's one of the most rewarding things about my channel, though, because if you were to ever, you'd be crazy as hell to do this because I got like almost 250 videos. But if you were ever like to go back and see where I started up until now, my perspective has been changed on so many things, and it's just like I'll be so set in it, and I'll write out my script, and I'll be like, I fucking made some good points. This is gonna be a good ass video. And so that one person comes in the comment section and is like, nah, bruh, you might want to think about that. And then they say some shit where I was like, oh my God. And I have to go back and I revisit my script and I'm like, holy shit. And I started thinking about it more, and then it makes me go research more, and I'm like, oh my God. And like that's what gets me excited about this channel the most. Like, the views are nice and all that stuff, but just having people challenge my views. And I called it 2 cents because, like, I'm not an intellectual. I'm not like a scholar. I didn't go to any major college and do anything major. I got 2 certifications in digital cable, so it's just like I don't know a lot of stuff about things because I spent most of my life as a shut-in. So I listened a lot, and I heard a lot of other people talk to me, but I never really had anything to add. So like, now that I'm getting my thoughts out there and they're being challenged, I get excited. Whenever somebody's like, I can prove you wrong, I'm like, fuck, please do. Like, come on, tell me some shit. I want to know, because it's learning something new. And maybe that's like the gamer's mentality, because whenever you find out something new in a game, you get excited, or you fight a boss that you can't beat. That shit revs you up, and you're like, fuck, this thing kicked my ass. I need to fight back. I want to figure this out. So, that's the thrill that I get from my channel. I love when people challenge me in my comment section.
And I think that's what separates what would be called our side from the other side. Is most of the people I watch, at least, if you challenge them, they're going to challenge you back. And even if you end up with a little name calling, it's going to be about the argument, where the other side is just like, if you watch Riley Dennis, if you disagree at all, you will be completely ignored. If you follow Riley Dennis on Twitter, when you first sign up, he goes through and he'll look at everything you've said recently. And if you've said anything that doesn't go with his narrative, you get blocked immediately. And I know that happens because somebody had told me it did, and I wasn't following her. And so I followed, and literally 5 minutes later, I was blocked. There was no way I could have offended him at that point.
Yeah, so far I've been very, as far as I can tell, very fortunate in both my subscribers and the responses I've gotten. It's all been very supportive. I've got a couple of times where someone will come in and say, I know more about this thing that you just sort of offhandedly mentioned. And then they'll just sort of give me an info dump on, like there's this video I did where there's a TEDx talk, and the lady was talking about Gary, Indiana. And she was talking about how I go to Gary, Indiana, even though I'm a white person. And then she just kind of moved on, and I said something to the effect of, because the people in Gary, Indiana are all racists. And then I just kind of moved on from there. And then one of my subscribers comes in and says, well, here's what's going on in Gary. And he just gives me like this info dump of like, and granted, I'm taking his word for it because I don't know, but he just sort of he effectively enhanced the content of my video by providing more information that I didn't have. And in one instance, I made a video and several of my subscribers came back and said, hey, that this is basically an edited down version of a longer video, and you should watch that because the points you made are kind of eh. And I was like, oh. And so I went and watched the longer video. I'm like, no, you're absolutely right. Most of the points I made are completely deflated by the bigger context. And I just zapped the video because it's not, I was wrong. I don't have a problem admitting I'm wrong. I try to admit as often as I can when I don't know something or I don't understand what the person said, because like we talked about before, it's sort of like, well, I'm not an expert on economics. I'm not an expert on, social mechanics or anything. At the end of the day, if I don't get something, or if something you've said is contradicted another thing, all I can do is ask the question, why would you say that? That's about it. Because the person positioning themselves as the expert, the person positioning themselves as the educator, the onus is on them to explain themselves, because they're putting themselves there saying they know something. And if they don't, then, that should be shown. If they do, hey, by all means, explain yourselves. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's one of the most frustrating things about SJWs is the higher people have built this narrative of, you don't have to explain yourself to other people. They should just know, or they need to educate themselves. And that kind of is the reason why, as opposed to just having a dialogue with the person or reaching out to a person, is almost impossible. So it's like, this person is saying this ridiculous thing. I want to know why, but they've been trained to say, oh, well, I shouldn't have to tell you anything. I shouldn't have to explain my points. When I call you a racist, if I say you're a racist, you should just accept it or go look up why you're a racist. I don't have to explain myself to you. And that shit is infuriating. So you got to get out your anger in these videos, and that's probably why they come off a little hostile, or you say some off the cuff shit because you're like, this person doesn't have the balls to even back up or talk to me about their claims. They're just like, you're a racist, you should just accept it. And I'm like, no, fuck you. That's not how that goes.
Well, yeah, I've talked about this a few times. A lot. This comes up in live streams quite often, but I am pretty much exactly the way I am on my videos in real life. The only difference is my voice sounds like it does now instead of the more formal voice you hear when I make a video. But if somebody says something stupid, I have a hard time not going, that's stupid, with that exact language. And at a job I had for quite a long time, I used to butt heads with management all the time because they would just say the stupidest shit. And I couldn't help myself. I had to go challenge it. And luckily I had a lot of good managers there who understood how I was. But I couldn't just keep my mouth shut where everybody else, I was asked numerous times, how have you never been fired? It's like, well, because what you saw, me asking them why they would say something stupid, wasn't the end of it. We went, behind a closed door where it's more appropriate. And we had a conversation about it where we talked logically. And the way I see it with like the SJWs, it would be like that manager just shutting the door and telling me to go fuck myself. I am just as blunt in person as I am on the videos. And the weird thing is, in real life, I have less issues with it. People are actually more responsive than I've seen any SJW online be.
And a hush fell over the crowd.
I see that. Okay.
I was just, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I don't want this to be like a 4-hour stream. We're coming up on an hour and a half here. Audience, is there any questions you guys have for us? I promise I will read them this time.
Yes, we'll just watch the chat and say silly things in the meantime.
You better follow through, dude, because they're just hiding their pitchforks behind their backs. They didn't put them away.
Yeah, well, Amanda just told us that she took a break from doing stream stuff to go have sex with her husband. Now she's back because that's all taken care of now.
So
good.
Yeah, which is always nice to hear.
You enjoyed it.
Oh,
well, you should have saw the last stream when she was drunk. Well, maybe she don't want me sharing that information.
What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Right.
Okay.
Oh, man.
Heisenberg, no, I don't mind if I get insulted. I actually think it's funny. Zach, never put any bananas in my ass. I'm 41 years old.
What do you want Trump to accomplish? I want Trump to operate. Well, specifically, I want him to do some of the stuff that he said he would, like increase the manufacturing back to America and bring jobs back. Because whatever you might think of his attitude about it, he's not wrong when he says that we need to not only rebuild our manufacturing sector, but also our infrastructure. Holy cats, man. How many bridges are about to fall down because they're not being maintained correctly? The other thing that in the broad strokes that I hope he does, and this is one of the only other silver linings I saw by his election, was he doesn't owe anyone anything, in the sense that the Democrats didn't put him there. The Republicans sure as hell weren't helping him. I hope and this is what's disappointed me so far about some of his cabinet picks. I thought he'd be very practical and say something like, who do you want for Secretary of Defense? And if it had been me, or if the image I had of Trump at the time, I would have said, well, who's our best diplomat today? And elevate that guy. Find somebody who knows what they're doing and just put him in the position. Not look for somebody who's a name, not look for somebody who's a CEO of $1 billion company or something. That disappointed me. So I don't have much hope now, but that's what I'd hoped he would do.
Did you see the education secretary talking about we need guns in school because of bears?
Yes, silly bitch.
Yes.
There are a lot of arguments you could make for why you should have guns in school, which I don't think kids should, but bears would never have been on my list.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
No, it's funny on one end, but it's very
so
distressing
sad
on the other. It's distressing on the other. I mean, this is one of the things is that I knew was going to happen, and it's already happened. Basically, is that the Trump White House is going to be the greatest reality show we've never seen, and very quickly, and it's already happened. I mean, it already happened before we even took the inauguration. The line between TMZ and CNN will disappear. Absolutely disappear. And it's already basically happened with the whole BuzzFeed thing and CNN. But it's going to get worse. As time goes on, it's going to be even worse, because these guys, first off, his brood is very large, and they're very plugged in all over the place. And they are, just by their looks, just by all the baggage, they are just tabloid ready, even more so than they were back in the 80s. Holy
sure.
Yeah.
I have a theory, though, and I want to run it by you guys. I always get these crazy ass theories that I'm like, I shouldn't say this out loud, but fuck it. So, so I'm like, Trump, he's dealt with a lot of money in his life, and he's dealt with a lot of people who has dealt with a lot of money. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, I'm sure, with him being in this area so long and dealing with these people, he knows how they tick. You know what I mean? He knows what they think about. He knows like what type of shit motivates them. And I think this is some bullshit I'm just throwing out here, but I think he picked the cabinet that he picked because he's like, I can manipulate these people. I know what they want. I know what they like. And I know what to tell them to make them go in the direction I want them to go. I know how to make them put their money where I want it. So if I need something done, I can get it done. They're idiots. I think they're useful idiots for him. I mean, and he ain't too bright either, but rich people know other rich people. You know what I mean? That's one thing he knows. So maybe, possibly, I don't know. But that was just my thing. I'm like, could that be it?
That's an interesting theory, and I actually kind of like that. I'll have to keep an eye on the rest of his picks and see what I think about that, because that is really interesting. Somebody asked, what's your alcohol of choice?
Jack and Coke.
The only thing I can drink is vodka.
Are you Russian?
No, like my very first experience with alcohol was a horrible one. So bad in which I was drinking dark liquor and I fell asleep and had a dream that I threw up. I was on my back and I woke up and found out it wasn't a dream. So yeah. So now the only thing I can drink without like getting completely sick is vodka.
That's kind of like why I can't drink chocolate milk anymore. When I was like 12 or 13, I drank chocolate milk out of a bad batch or something, and I had like hallucinatory dreams and got so violently ill that I've never ever taken another drink of chocolate milk. Now hot chocolate or a chocolate milkshake, I'm perfectly fine with, but just chocolate milk, it makes me cringe for some reason. Just that's the way I've been now.
I don't drink right now because of the medicines I'm on, and I've never been a big drinker. But if I do drink, I start the night with a shot of Cuervo, and then I'm Jack and Coke the rest of the night.
There you go.
Amanda asked why she wasn't invited to the stream, and the reason that this is such a small group is because I know these two guys, and I knew how this would go.
What do you think we're doing here? Three guys sitting up here talking down to the bunch of you. We're misogynist. The patriarchy's right here.
That's right. This is the kind of conversation I really like to have, and I knew we would just run over people. I've had to tell people in other hangouts that me and Scribe have been in that if we get going, just jump in when you want something because we won't stop.
Explaining.
Yeah. I don't know if I saw any other questions there. My chat froze up for a while.
Let me scroll.
Somebody said Jaeger makes them frisky.
Let's see. Lars Fernandez says, porn choice. I thought it said pro-choice for a second. Porn choice.
You know, this is actually, you're not going to believe this. I don't watch porn very often just because I'm old and don't care anymore. Back in the day, girl on girl.
I like the full range. I don't even know what to tell you. I like stuff where I usually like amateur stuff. I like stuff that isn't sort of like scripted or overly produced.
Yeah.
I also like sort of taboo stuff, not in the sense of like something like illegal, but sort of there's this one series out right now where it's like they've got these two female porn stars dressed up as cops, and they go and they arrest some guy, and then they make him fuck them.
Oh,
and
okay.
The woman in uniform thing. You've seen these? Yeah, it's like I think it's called like Black Patrol or something, and they're going out there because they're feeding off of the current events of the day and turning it into porn. And not only is the sort of like the woman in uniform sort of thing kind of get me going, but also just the comedy value, the sort of dark comedy value, no pun intended, of seeing that turned into porn just kind of entertains me as well.
Well, there's a old saying that no guy has ever seen the end of a porno movie, and
I can say that's absolutely not true. I've watched one to the credits.
I've watched very few that way. I'm a get in and get out kind of person.
And you know what? If it is a movie, like I've found myself actually watching it like to the end because I'm just like, look at this fuckery, literally.
Pirates. Have you ever seen Pirates? You know the story behind Pirates?
No.
So there's a porn movie named Pirates, and it was back in the like the late 90s, early 2000s or whatever. And what it was that after the Pirates of the Caribbean was finished filming, they had this giant pirate boat set. And these porn guys came along and said, hey, before you tear that down, can we use it? And so they used a multi-million-dollar pirate ship set to do their porn movie. Built by Disney, and upped the production value of their film by millions of dollars they didn't have to pay for. And they made, like, as far as I know, 2 movies basically doing the same thing. They'll come back after a Pirates movie and use that. And I just thought that was interesting. Question, sort of jumping off of that, just because what the hell. Do you guys have a favorite porn actress or actor, depending on how you look at it?
I can't name a porn actress to save my life, and the only male porn star I could name is Ron Jeremy, and it has nothing to do with him being in porn, just being a pop culture icon.
Oscar Akira.
As far as male porn stars, just because I'm jealous, James Dean. As far as female, it's she's from the 90s. Nobody knows, or very few people. Her name was Krista Mays. And oh God, I mean, just everything else aside, just like, you know, man, could I be lucky enough to meet a woman that looks like that? Holy cow. Jeez. So anyway, I could go on.
Speaking of porn stars, somebody asked if I would ever do a collaboration with Milo Stewart. I will do a collaboration with anybody who's actually willing to listen.
Hold on, I need to find the connection of what that has to do with porn.
Just my sense of humor, that's all.
It could be intellectual porn, depending on who you are.
You mean torture porn? Fuck.
There you go, torture porn. But I would collaborate with anyone who actually has an open mind. If you're willing to listen, I don't even want her to agree with me, but I don't think she could ever articulate my points because I don't think she's actually ever listened.
I would love to have a one-on-one stream with just about anybody who doesn't agree with me on something, and not, and this is and another sort of like, maybe I shouldn't say this, sort of critique on things. The most people, I think most people get the idea of what debate should be, or what the most beneficial thing of it is. But for anybody else watching, the most useful debates, at least in my opinion, are those where the people aren't trying to convince each other of their own opinion. You know, it's not a matter of I'm engaging someone because I'm trying to make them see the error of their ways. I'm engaging someone so that I can put my opinion or my perspective up against theirs, and whatever benefit of that is to the audience is where it's going to lie. Because, you know, if you find a zealot on one side or the other, you're not going to convince them. You're not going to change their mind. You might be able to catch them in a contradiction or something, and maybe by some amount of kismet, they might change their mind if you show them otherwise. But your intent should be going in to have a conversation that is interesting to the person listening, and keep your mind open to the possibility that you may be wrong. If both people can come to it that way, you'll have a really great debate. If not, you might have a one-sided one.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's not even necessarily that I would want her to agree with me, but you have to at least be able to hear my argument enough that if you had to do it, you could make it for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't think you'd get that with Milo.
You know what? That's I want to go back to what you said about not debating a person to try to sway them, but like having the conversation for the people that's listening.
Mm-hmm.
That's really interesting. Like, I don't think that I've ever like thought about it in that perspective before, and like it always comes to mind, but like I've never heard it articulated in that way. But that's interesting.
Well, see, I think that's really all. And like I said before about the Hitchens debates, at the points at which he would just not jump in. And it's sometimes he actually even said it like, well, you know, I'll leave it to the audience to decide, kind of thing. He'd say something like that. It's sort of like you have, I always thought of it as I have these two avatars of thinking on a stage. I have these people that embody both sides of an argument, which is an abstract concept, and they're head to head, they're coming together. What comes out of it? Well, I'm listening to both. I'm comparing what they're saying one to the other, point to point. What do I take away from it? I mean, what do I take away from it? I mean, whether I agree with one side or the other, or or whether I understand completely what one person's saying versus the other, all I can hope to take away from it is like, who made the best argument? How am I convinced? Because it's not a matter necessarily of watching your two favorite superheroes battle on a stage. Yeah, it could be. That can be entertaining as well. But I think the only useful thing is, how do I step away from this conversation thinking about it? Not necessarily thinking differently or better or whatever else, but, you know, you have to be able to have an experience and take something useful away, even if it's a bad one. I've had that happen far too many times in my life where I have to, like, something horrible happens and I have to say to myself, okay, well, where's the line between where I fucked up and the other person fucked up? Because I don't want to have to do this again if I can help it. How can I learn something? You know?
Real quick, I need to clear it up. When I said Milo, the question was about Milo Stewart, not Milo Yiannopoulos.
Oh, either one would be awesome.
I would love to argue with him because I think it would be so fun. He doesn't take shit personally. He stays on point, and he will insult you back. Mm-hmm. I think that would just be awesome. I'd love to find something I disagreed with him about and just sit down for an hour.
Milo's one of those minds that I would be so intimidated to even try to come up against, because I just he would just run circles around anything I would say.
And do it,
you sell yourself short.
And do it in a very entertaining way.
Exactly. I mean, gosh, talk about, like wanting to be upstaged right in front of you. Holy cow.
But yeah, that would be Milo Stewart, not Milo Yiannopoulos. Was there something else I saw that I wanted to... Oh, no, I was actually going back to the point you made before I interrupted there. Think of it this way, Satsu. When you make your videos, you're not really responding to that person, expecting them to watch it and change their mind. You're making it for your audience. Anytime that I debate, because when they talk about, you know, low-hanging fruit and this stupid shit, I don't make my response videos expecting to change the person's mind who made the original video. In most cases, I know that's not ever going to happen. I do it for the audience that's watching. I do it so they can see my thought process versus what was said.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess that's, if you watch my videos, that's essentially like the direction that I go, because I'm just like, they'll never see this video, and I know that, but it's just to say, like, as an objective, you go in with that mindset. I don't think I've gone in with that mindset. I think that's just kind of what happens, where, you know, and that's why I do a lot of kind of off the cuff, like not really response videos, but just like, what do you guys think about this videos? I know you've been seeing kind of a rise of those where I'm like, here's a concept that I was thinking about. Here are my thoughts. Because I genuinely want to know what other people think, you know, as a person who spent about half his lifetime not speaking to people. It's just like, now I'm just really interested in what other people have to say. So, you know, I think that's just been a symptom of me kind of growing as a YouTuber over time, because before I used to do the point by point thing that you were talking about, where I'm like, I'm going to respond to this entire video, every single point, and pick at stupid shit that doesn't make sense. I did that, you know, so, but my channel has evolved over time, because the people who come to my channel and watch it are people who are like, you know, we're going to ding you on this and we're going to talk to you about this, or, you know, you might want to, you know, clean it up a little bit. And I've just kind of gotten to the point to where my arguments are a little more concise, and I feel like I'm growing as a person and just learning a lot of shit. It's rewarding. It's really good to get that kind of feedback.
Yeah.
I've never done as much research on anything as I've had to do in the last couple of months being a YouTuber.
Yeah.
I swear to God. I mean, I just think about what I did in school when I actually had to do a research paper, and it honestly doesn't even compare, because when I'm watching somebody's video and they make a claim or they make a point, I can't count how many times that they've said something I thought, that sounds like absolute bullshit. And then I'll look it up, like, nope, they're right. But they're not putting it in the right content. God damn it! Now I got to look at 3 more sites to make sure I'm not being fed a line of bullshit. And looking up statistics and putting together infographics, like, okay, here's how the percentages are currently listed compared to what they're saying. Does this match up? Are there any alternative possibilities as to why these numbers might be what they are, instead of just racism, you know, et cetera. So in the process of, I remember in college, real quick anecdotal just on sort of the same subject. In college, I earned a very little amount of money by going to this one center, and what they would do is they would have you come in and read textbooks onto tape for reading impaired and visually impaired students. And you go in there and you find whatever book they had on the shelf that needed to be read, and you'd read a chapter or 2, and then you get paid for your time. I ended up reading an entire textbook over the course of weeks, because nobody else apparently chose it over the weeks or so, on the Hmong culture. And the narrative was about a family who had immigrated from Southeast Asia, and their daughter had epilepsy. In their culture, epilepsy is their child visiting the spirit world. Over here, it's a disease. Eastern mysticism versus Western medicine, as told through this entire textbook, and using the story about this little girl as the through line. And I learned everything I could possibly ever ask for about the Hmong culture and Western medicine colliding, and it was the best class I never took.
Real quick, guys, the reason Satsu's description isn't in here, when this was set up, it was just me and Scribe, and we brought him in later, and I just forgot to put it down there. When I upload this on my streaming channel, it will be in there. If anybody has the link, if you could put it in the chat. My chat is all screwy. Old computer, it slows down. I apologize. It wasn't to keep the black guy down, I promise.
It was. I mean, I've already come to terms with it, so you ain't got to put up the front.
And Amanda said something that I've heard a lot. She says, Scribe is criminally undersubbed. I have made this promise that when I get to like 500 subscribers, I'm going to start doing a series called Criminally Undersubbed, and I'm going to find someone on YouTube that deserves a bigger audience than they have, and just make a whole show about them, because I think that's the best way to pay it forward. And I'm gonna have like prison door sound effects and everything, and make it all like Dragnet as much as I can through my minimal skills and all that fun stuff.
You could start with me.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, like, you know, if somehow I cross the finish line on that before anything else, there's a bunch of people that I think are just brilliant that aren't getting as much attention as they probably should. So yeah,
there are, believe it or not, there are YouTube channels dedicated to that. I actually had a guy, one of my Patreon supporters, he said that he started his channel to promote other people, and he has a Patreon for that purpose, and he uses all the funds from his Patreon to support other people on Patreon.
Perfect.
Oh, that's cool.
I was like, nice. Dude, that's fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay, last subject. It was a question from a little while ago. Somebody asked if you've always been this, if you were argumentative as a child. Me, absolutely. My sister came up to visit about a year ago, and she'd never actually met my children, and she was telling them stories about me as a kid, which she probably shouldn't have done. And she said if she had to describe my life, it would be Tom Petty's song, Won't Back Down. Because even the earliest time I remember arguing with my own parents, telling them that they were wrong, I was probably 5 years old. And I've been like this my whole life. I spot logical arguments, and I've been wrong, but it's usually because I don't have all the information, not because my logic was flawed. It's my information was flawed. And I've always been the kind of person who just speaks out. So what about you guys? Have you always been like this?
Well, like I said, I think the reason that I know a lot of the stuff that I know, and similar to what he said, I was kind of, I guess what somebody would consider a smarter kid than I should have been. But like I said, I was a mute kid. I didn't speak really to anybody ever. Most of my communication when I was with my mom was through my mom. And I listened to adults all day. I would sit down and just listen to adult conversations. They would talk about all kinds of stuff. I would watch shows that like aren't for kids. And it just, you know, I had all these thoughts. And whenever an adult actually got me to speak, they're like, holy shit. Like, am I talking to a 5-year-old right now? And it was just like, it was one of those scenarios. But I mean, I had a lot of shit going on in my head, but I was never really confrontational. It's just like, because to me back then, debates and arguments and shit, it was a confrontation. And I'm just like, I don't want to deal with that. So not me. It took me a while to get to this point.
In school, real quick, I was the model student until I was about 14. I didn't challenge people outside of my own household or my own friends. After 14, all of that went away. Scribe, what about you?
I was never confrontational. I was always the shy, introverted kid. For most of my life, I was arguing with myself about my own, what I saw as my failings or myself. I've always been far more self-critical than I should be. And as a result, I was always picking apart my motivations. Like, why did I do that thing? Why did I do this? Why didn't I do that? And also coming up with my anxieties would cause me to conjure up all the contingencies of what I might say to somebody if this situation happens. You know, you have that sort of confrontation fantasy where you sort of like think like, what would I say in this? And so it wasn't until the last maybe a couple of years after I got some, I've talked about this in another stream, I won't go into it, but I got some assistance for my problems. And a lot of the machinery I was using to sort of self-regulate or self-monitor has sort of turned outwards now. And I feel more comfortable in dissecting or confronting things that are outside of myself. And YouTube has definitely been a good therapy in that regard.
All right. And that will be where we wrap it up. Satsu, Scribe, thank you guys both so much for being here on my first stream.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
No problem, man.
You guys watching, go check them out. I love watching these guys' content. and I mean that sincerely. It's excellent. You're going to see some thinking you aren't going to see anywhere else. Check them out. Thank you guys for watching. I'm the Ranting Monkey, and we'll see you next time.
Later, guys.